Greeting. Greetings to the morning Portland Insight Meditation Sit. If you haven't already, I think pretty much everyone has. If you can mute your boxes, we'll say hello to each other later. Let's start with allowing the sound to come to our ears. The call to the Dhamma. The call to becoming even more awake. And acknowledging the teachings of the Buddha that brings us here, the possibility of awakening ourselves in this very life, the symbol of Siddhartha Gautama, who himself became awake. He was amongst many other lineage of Buddhas, and to the Sangha, those whom over many years did their best to preserve the teachings as they remembered them and could pass them on, and they've changed through different countries and different translations, but the message of really seeing for ourselves the nature of our discomfort, the nature of our suffering, and the way that when we grasp and hang on to things causes us this suffering. And so we see each moment taking the time for a formal sitting practice like we're doing now, or even in our daily lives of walking, standing, reaching for the doorknob. We do our best to have mindfulness be present in all of our movements. And part of that, in order to have mindfulness be present, is the taming of the mind, the taming of the restless mind or the agitated mind or the tired heart and mind. So I'm going to read the section that I really like on Chittavagga in the Dhammapada. There are many versions. This is kind of a simple one. Just as an arrow maker straightens an arrow shaft, even so the discerning person straightens their mind, so fickle and unsteady, so difficult to guard and control. As a fish when pulled out of water and cast on land throbs and quivers, even so in this mind is this mind agitated. Hence, one should leave the realm of Mara. Wonderful indeed it is to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift and wandering wherever it desires. A tamed mind brings happiness. Let the discerning person guide their mind, so difficult to detect and extremely subtle, wandering wherever it desires. A guarded mind brings happiness. Dwelling in the cave of the heart, without form, the mind wanders far and moves alone. Those who subdue this mind are liberated from the bonds of Mara. Wisdom is not perfected in one whose mind is not steadfast, who knows not the good teachings and whose faith wavers. There is no fear for an awakened one whose mind is not sodden by lust nor afflicted by hate, and who has gone beyond both merit and demerit. Realizing that this body is as fragile as a clay pot, and fortifying this mind like a well-fortified city, fight out Mara with the sword of wisdom. Then, guarding the conquest, remain unattached. Before long, alas, this body will lie upon the earth, cast away and lifeless, like a useless log. Whatever harm any enemy may do to an enemy, or a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind inflicts on oneself greater harm. Neither mother, father, nor any other relative can do one greater good than one's own well-directed mind. And so we take this time to allow ourselves to feel grounded in our body, in our chosen position, to really be with and see the mind clearly. The heart and mind, chitta, the Pali word, is a little more descriptive than just mind. It includes the heart. It's the whole being. And how do we go about taming the heart and mind, overcoming Mara, overcoming our busyness in the heart and mind? We hold it gently. We hold ourselves with gentleness and kindness. We allow this feeling of goodwill to bubble up in our hearts, to hold us through whatever arises in the heart and mind as we take this time to be still, still the body, calm the mind, or whatever else is happening in the mind. We're just letting what arises be seen with mindfulness, with awareness. We can come into our senses. Sounds come to the ear door, sights come to the eye door, taste, smell, touch, feeling the touch of the buttocks on the cushion or the chair, or where our hands touch. Letting gravity hold us as we allow this container of the breath to be noticed. We can develop a kind of concentration by allowing the hindrances to become weaker. If we tend to a single object, such as the breath, feeling it at the nostrils or the diaphragm, or pressure that arises and disappears, loosens. We can also be mindful of changing objects that come within our purview here as mindfulness sees what arises at the sense doors. Whatever way you are used to meditating, or if you're new to the practice, beginning with the breath is a good place to start, or beginning with a sit point where you feel your buttocks on the cushion, or where you feel your hands touching each other, or where you feel pressure of your arms against your body, to bring us into that moment over and over again as the heart and mind wanders, as was pointed out in the Dhammapada. We can gently bring ourselves back to this single object of attention of the breath, or just waking up in that moment when we notice something has come to a close and our attention is beginning again. We can allow the muscles behind our eyes to relax, our face and our jaw, just bringing attention there, can often allow a sense of softening to occur. We can let ourselves stay seated with just the right amount of energy to be interested, and yet not holding ourselves stiff and erect. Yet filled, like the hose that's filled with water but not turned on. Letting mindfulness be at the fore. Awareness arising with what mindfulness discovers. Mindfulness and awareness together arise. Come together with the object of the breath, or what's arising in the more open awareness. And we can see the true nature when we really pay attention of whatever we are attending to, if we stay with close attention to it, that it arises due to conditions, stays for a certain amount of time, and then departs on its own accord. Some things stay longer than we wish they would, and other things don't stay as long. And this is where we see that if we cling or attach ourselves to wanting something to be a certain way, we will quickly notice that conditions come together and then they dissolve and fall apart, coming together and falling apart. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness can gladden the mind, bring joy for the freedom of seeing clearly these three characteristics of anicca, anatta, and dukkha. Something arises, we cling to it. We see that it disappears. Or maybe it doesn't disappear as quickly as we want it to. But there's nothing we can hang on to. And we do this in a field of kindness and compassion for ourselves. Taming the heart and mind with kindness and compassion, mindfulness, awareness, and wisdom that arises and sees clearly. Over and over and over again. This can be an easeful, natural process. Holding ourselves in kindness, having just the right amount of energy to stay interested. When the mind wanders, or we aren't so interested, we can just begin right where we are, even by noticing the feeling tone of what's happening right now. Is it pleasant or unpleasant? Maybe it's neutral. We can't tell. We just begin again with ease and kindness. With the desire, the aspiration, the intention of being present for what's arising in this very moment. Letting ourselves return to the breath, especially if the mind is busy or agitated. We can come back to that single object. Noticing where it starts, how long it lasts, when it ends. Noticing the space in between the Exhale on the inhale. Sometimes if the mind has wandered off, or maybe we're not sure what's happening, we can just ask ourselves, what is the mood of the mind right now? What is happening in the heart and mind right now? What do we notice in the body? With curiosity and interest. Being present for this moment. Sometimes we have inclinations to move, and we can notice the intention before the movement. Being present with what conditions come together just before that urge for an action. To change our position in our seat, or lift our hand towards something. Mindfulness in the moment. The energy and the effort that we call upon to be present with whatever's happening. Moment by moment, breath by breath, present in the here and now. Mindfulness, awareness, continuity of practice, continuity of mindful moments being strung together. When we get lost or not so interested or bored or agitated, we can see that and be present with that. Embrace it. Remembering how wonderful indeed it is to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift and wandering wherever it desires. A tamed mind brings happiness. Developing concentration on the single object of the attention at the nostrils, or noticing the pressure and release of pressure at the diaphragm. Or having that concentration build on changing objects, whatever arises. Mindfulness is with it. Awareness is present. We stay with what's arising. Conditions come together and fall apart. We notice when our object of attention has dissolved. So over and over again, these mindful moments help us train the heart and mind, guard the heart from distraction. And we do it all in kindness, as best we can, having compassion for ourselves when it's difficult, holding ourselves gently. Starting where we are and beginning again. What is happening in the heart and the mind? What is the attitude of the mind? Where are we present in our bodies? What is happening now? Can we hold it in neutrality of mindfulness? Is awareness present to really see its true nature? Can we really know directly where our attention is, to be with what arises? To see the impermanent nature and to notice when it falls away naturally, without grasping, without clinging. We can see clearly. Every now and then, with this just a right amount of effort and energy, we can sweep gently through the body, letting go of places that might be holding tightly, softening behind the eyes and the jaw, the throat, releasing tightness around the shoulders and settling ourselves into our seat of this container of our breath. Allowing our hearts to incline toward kindness for ourselves, however that looks. You might see yourself happy and healthy in the present moment. You may have an image of yourself at a different time, as a young child or at some point in your life where you've had satisfaction, a kind of happiness. May we hold ourselves in this kindness. May we include ourselves in this goodwill of embracing happiness and the causes of happiness, that we may be free from danger. We may be free from suffering. May we be free from our attachments, free from our aversions. May we take care of ourselves happily. May we have ease in our lives. And may this sense of goodwill and well-being include a close friend or a teacher, a benefactor, or perhaps another person in your household or a neighbor. Just allowing this sense of well-being to pervade in other directions. Letting the kindness of our hearts and the compassion that we hold for ourselves when things are challenging, may that compassion also include in our grounded body of breath. May we include others. Some it may be easy to include, others may be a little more challenging. Different beings come to mind. Perhaps someone we don't know, but we see from time to time. Letting this kindness pervade and include others. Letting the compassion be present with another person's suffering. Whether it's the friend, the benefactor, a neutral person, whoever comes to mind, letting this concentration that has been built up in our practice continue as a concentration of loving kindness, compassion, metta, and karuna. May we have gentleness and kindness, noticing lack of ill will within our hearts. Letting this kindness include beings that walk and swim and fly and crawl. May all beings everywhere have happiness and the causes of happiness, be free from suffering, enmity and danger, have ease and well-being. Just as I wish to be happy, I know that all beings wish to be happy. Anicca vata sankara upadavaya domino upakitava meruchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. And may the goodness of our practice, the time we take here formally, and our conscious effort at having mindfulness be present in our daily lives, be of benefit to all beings. Thank you so much for your practice. And before I go into a few announcements and we talk to each other, if I can find it, I want to share. I think I can get it up on my iPad easier than waiting for my computer to open Kindle. There was a section from our reading in the Living This Life Fully that goes along with the idea that I was thinking of around guarding the mind and right energy and effort. Let's see. Where did it go? It had to do with anger and guarding the mind. So bear with me while I scroll through my digital version of the book, which of course has completely different page numbers. Well, I might not be able to find it. Here it is, here it is. Oh, good. It's about Munindra's energy. Until the last 2 or 3 years of his life, he was hard to keep up with. And that was very inspiring, says Robert Pryor. The way I interpreted it, because his mind was freer than other minds. He just had more energy. I suspect he didn't waste his energy worrying the way the rest of us do. Worrying is not the only energy drain, Munindra explained. When the mind is influenced by anger, if you are not aware, then it gets food, it gets nourishment. If there is no mindfulness, anger has the nature to pollute the mind. When it is not observed, then it influences the body. Then we see these changes. The body becomes tense, eyes become red, the body trembles, the circulation of the blood changes. Any reaction, any word you use at that time becomes poisonous. Hurting, because when the mind is polluted, all actions, deeds, and words are polluted. On account of that, we burn a lot of our energy, and that's why we need more sleep, more rest. But if the mind does not react, if the mind is not wandering, not thinking, but experiencing moment to moment, then it is restful, conserving the energy, not wasting it. That's why when mindfulness is highly developed, you do not feel sleepy, tired, or exhausted. One day, without any forethought, Manindra demonstrated how the power of virya, to be mindful and to nudge the mind and heart toward wholesome states, actually functions. Robin Sunbeam relates the lesson she learned. I was trying to practice loving kindness. He explained to me how anger and rage are the flip side of the coin of loving kindness, and how you could transform the energy of that rage so it becomes a fountain of love. Then I can't remember what happened, but someone came in and told him something, and he became enraged. I was standing only 6 or 7 feet away, and I could see his face become a scowl. His eyes were burning. He turned red. Then I could see his mindfulness snap in. And in a moment, he was smiling, his usual smile, and being very loving toward the same person. Kamala Masters adds, as sentient human beings, we have the intelligence to incline the mind toward the wholesome. If something from the past has borne fruit in the present moment and it's unwholesome, then our practice is to not do anything with it. In our language, in our actions, to let it go. In different ways, Maninder would express that. We can't control our outer conditions. But there's a great possibility that a wholesome state of mind, if nurtured and given energy and used, could lead to another wholesome state of mind. Thank you for listening to the Dhamma, and thank you for your practice.